got my own place. It's pretty exciting to finally feel like you have your own place to settle in. You guys probably haven't seen me post too much in the last year and a half. Big reason why is because I was living at my uncle's house for a year and a half. I was basically in a room smaller than this, where I had very little control over my situation. Very grateful for my uncle letting me live there. But let's talk about moving back home. I was watching a really good YouTube video by a creator. I'll somehow tag or plug it somewhere around here. And she was talking about moving home. And I want to talk about it from an artistic perspective. Is there a benefit to moving home? One thing I can say for sure is moving home allows you to really fix your life if your life isn't going well. I think a lot of people see a lot of shame in moving home. Like, oh, I'm moving home, I'm 30, I'm such a failure. I think that's like the typical sort of thing. But what I can tell you is that moving home is not that bad. It actually can help a lot of ways. For me, biggest thing was gave me a little bit of financial independence. When I moved there, I had literally $0 in my bank account. I was in such a bad situation that I was considering living in my car. But luckily, I got past that, and because of living at my uncle's, I was able to save, at least for the first half of it, I wasn't paying any rent. And it made it so that I was saving up money while I was going along, which was a huge benefit. And for an artist, that's a huge benefit to have financial independence. I think a lot of us want to just like walk away from our jobs and just go pursue the big creative thing. But what I can tell you is that's not really easy to do, especially if you don't have money. The people that usually do walk away from some big job and go and do a big creative pursuit, they generally have some sort of, backup plan, whether they have rich parents, whether they have a lot of savings, whether they, have a good plan to make money very quickly. That's very easy to do if you're in that situation. But if you don't have that, you kind of feel like an idiot when you're like, oh, how are all these other people succeeding where I'm failing at? And the reason is they probably just have more things than you. They probably have better resources, more money, more time, whatever. And that's another thing that's really helpful. Time. You don't really realize it until you don't have it, but like living at home, you get a lot more time back because the financial stress is off of you from a certain aspect. You're starting to view things like, what is going to set me up in the best way to live in the future? Because when you're living at home, there's kind of like a timeline. There's a timeline in which you're not going to be living at home. At least that's the ideal situation. And that was for me, like, always apparent. Like, I always knew there was a time window where I could live at my uncle's. And in a weird way, I think because I wasn't super close with my uncle when I moved in, like, I barely even knew him when I moved in, there was a certain, like, transactional nature that I knew that, like, okay, this is going to last for so many months. This is going to, be this amount of time. And then I'm going to be out of here. Whereas if it was like family members, I think like I could have stayed longer or something like that. I think in a weird way, the transactional nature made it a little easier for me to realize like, hey, I'm going to have to move out. I think it also makes you appreciate spaces more. Like not owning your own space, I think in a weird way made me more resourceful as to where I could film things. So I was like, okay, well, my room is where I could film things at the time. And it was very limiting in a certain way. So I would have to go out of the house in order to film videos. And I filmed this really cool video out at the park because I was like, well, I have nowhere else to film. So I might as well just go out and film something cool outside because there's really nothing I can film inside. So I think you appreciate spaces, especially like when I got my own place. I mean, my girlfriend decorated a big part of this apartment. Really big shout out to her. But like, I'm so excited. I mean, look how cute this place looks. It's a really nice vibe. We've been curating it and making it so that it feels like something I want to shoot in, live in, and I'm just so happy. I'm so happy, and I think like going from that dichotomy of like not controlling your space to now controlling your space, I think it gives you a greater appreciation for it. I think moving home is something that I think all artists, should do if they're in a financial situation where they have to do that. Because, obviously everyone has different family situations. I know there'll be people in the comments say, oh, I don't have a family member, I can't, and I understand there is a point of privilege in that where it's like, hey, I was lucky that I had a family member who was willing to, let me live there for a year and a half. What I can tell you is that was kind of the big thing that helped me push to finishing my feature film, Chlorine Kills. I had this movie I was working on. It was a movie made with my dad. My dad passed away. It was kind of the part of the situation that put me in here in the first place. I used to work for his business, and then suddenly I was out of a job and out of a dad. So I was living with his brother. And then I was working on this movie that I made with my dad before he passed. And it was a creative project that I don't think I would have ever been able to finish or continue unless I was in a stable environment. And I think one thing that's super underrated is being around other people. I was very depressed. I was extremely depressed before I moved into my uncle's place. And I went through some of the worst depression episodes when I was there, but it slowly started to lighten over time. And I think just having a transactional conversation with my uncle walking down, hey, how's it going? How you doing? How you feeling about your dad? Or, talking to my Aunt Rena, and being she would once in a while I'd be sad, I'd start crying, she'd give me a hug. Those little things, you cannot underrate how important they are. Overrate, I guess. Being an artist, living at home, there's nothing wrong with it. I feel like when you look at most Hollywood stories, most big stories of people making it big, usually it's, oh, I lived in a van down at the river and I worked really hard, or I lived with 10 roommates, or, it's littered with those type of stories, because the people that are going to try to succeed at regular things, they're going to have their life figured out. They're going to find those routes and maneuver through those. People who are, approaching a more creative pursuit, it's usually not as linear, and usually you're in a situation where you don't have the ability to have everything figured out. That was the thing I learned, the big lesson I learned from making that situation work, was ultimately I couldn't really control most of it. I didn't really have the ability to live the way I really wanted to live. And I had to accept that. And I think it made myself a better person. I think it taught me patience. It taught me waiting for the right moment. I think there are certain moments in life where life will literally hand you what I would consider like a Matrix type moment, where it's here you go, here's the left, here's the right, you have to make a choice. And what I can say is that I chose a path that was a lot harder, because I could have probably figured out how to live with another family member, or I could have chose a way to, work and then find some sort of really cheap place to rent, and I would have been stuck in that situation. But moving with family, it was hard. It took humility. It took me not feeling a lot of ego, because when you move back in, you're at the behest of the family members you live with. And, again, I had a great experience living there for the most part. And I can tell you is those experiences I had, even, the uncomfortable ones, the comfortable ones, they made me into the person that I am today. So this has just been a little thought I had, what's your experience? Did you have to move home? If you did, why'd you do it? Are you still in the situation, or are you moving out of it pretty soon? Hopefully you're finding a situation that is equitable for you. I can tell you that this situation that I'm living in now is amazing, and I'm so happy that I was patient and I waited, and it's kind of given me a new lease on life, especially pursuing my artistic pursuits, because now I'm situated, I'm comfortable, I'm able to actually produce the art I want to produce. I'll be producing a lot more videos, and hopefully they're going to be better quality than they've ever been before. So you guys have a good one, okay? Bye-bye.